Yeah, perfect. Okay, thank you. All right, so it's temporary housing. Remember, renting is temporary. You can rent all of your life. That's totally fine. That might be maybe the best option for you because maybe it just allows your costs to come down and it's cheaper. Maybe you're just in a really nice area. But again, the definition of it though is temporary. You're paying a fee to stay at a house that is not yours. You do not own that place. You don't make modifications to the place. You don't drill holes in walls. Some tenants, landlords I should say, some landlords don't even allow you to paint the walls without permission because that affects the resale value. And that can, the type of paint you use can ruin the walls sometimes. It won't work. It won't sink in. Some landlords are really strict, and we talked about that yesterday. What a landlord is. It's the owner of the actual housing that you're renting. So the landlord. You could have a great landlord. You could have a really bad one. It just depends on where you're at. That's what the whole process of you going and finding a place for the first time. You need to take that part seriously when you're actually interviewing, because they're interviewing you to see if you're an upstanding citizen. But the second part is on that landlord, you're also interviewing them. What happens when you're one day late with the rent? Are they gonna get mad and kick you out, or are they gonna give you a day? Or maybe they have this strict policy where you always have to pay on a certain day of the month. Does that work for you? Because maybe you get paid on the 20th, but they want you to pay the rent on the 18th. Maybe you can't do that because you literally have no money to pay that until the 20th. So you got to kind of work that through on the agreement that you have. Now, the big thing I want to talk about today is there's these weird fictitious numbers they use. The book has them. There's banks that talk about these numbers. They're actually real numbers that people use. And they're talking, what we use them for is to estimate how much you should actually pay for rent. So you don't overextend your budget. So we're going to actually talk about there's this weird magic formula you use. It's actually pretty straightforward of how much you should pay for rent, what type of housing you should look for the first time. This formula is not realistic for some people. It depends on your area you live in. I can tell you right now, this formula does not work for the Clear Lake area. The rent in Clear Lake is astronomically high. You're just going to have to just face facts, and maybe you just have to rent one of those places. Okay, but I'll kind of show you what that formula is. Then what we're going to do today for the first time is compare it to a mortgage. I actually want to compare and talk about, if you're going to buy a home, that's called a mortgage, where you actually take a loan out. So it's the loan that you take to buy a home. I actually want to talk about that for the first time. This is something we're going to go into the next couple sections. This formula is not easy. It's one of the most probably difficult formulas for you to look at. And so I want to talk about what it is and how they calculate it and what the banks do and what's this weird magic number that they give you. All right. Is everyone kind of on the frame of mind of what we're doing here? Okay. All right. Perfect. So let's talk about this weird formula they have for rent. Does somebody, because I know I said yesterday I wanted you to kind of think about that one career, that job that you have in mind that you're kind of interested in. You don't have to be committed to it, but you're thinking about getting down the road, and do you know how much money that job makes? So I want somebody's example of that, please.
$15.50.
$15.50, is that an hour? Okay, $15.50 an hour. Perfect. Per hour. Okay. Can I ask what job it is?
Veterinary technician.
Ooh, cool. Okay, very good. All right, so $15.50 an hour. So what we want to do is I want to calculate what your yearly annual salary will be. So for the $15.50. So we did this in the last chapter. We'll assume that for a veterinarian assistant or whatever you're going to go to, you get 2 weeks off. Let's say just the normal. So you're gonna multiply this by 40. You're gonna multiply this by 50, and this will give you your annual pay. So your annual salary. So what? Oh, sorry. Yeah. So, and why multiply by 40? That's 40 hours a week for 50 weeks of a year, because you're calculating every week's pay. So, in fact, I'm going to use a calculator if you guys are writing that down. And I'm going to take that out, and I'll give you that number here in a second. So, $15.50. It's pretty good numbers. $15.50 times 40 times 50. It looks like we're making about 31 grand a year. That's pretty sweet. So 31 grand even. So that's your annual, the way you get paid per year, 31, starting. And that's just an average. So now, here's the idea. What we want to look at is what you get paid per month, okay? So imagine that maybe for this veterinary assistant, you get paid once a month like a teacher does. You get paid maybe on the 20th of every month, or maybe the 1st of every month. You get just paid on a certain day. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our 31,000 and divide by 12. There's 12 months in a year. And what this will give me is what I'm getting paid per month. This is the magic formula that they have you figure out. So if you divide by 12 months, it looks like our monthly pay is $2583.33. So you're getting paid about $2,500 a month. Okay, and that's what, the taxes haven't been taken out yet, but that's kind of just roughly what you're gonna get paid per month. Okay? What the book and banks and everyone else, and if you talk to like other people, what they always say to do to calculate what you should pay for rent, like what type of housing you should look for, other than having a really cool property, just cool like features around the house itself, is the actual pay you're gonna be looking at. So what they always say is you look at what your wages are per month, and the magic formula is you take whatever you make per month and you divide by 4. Okay? And that's the formula. It's this very simple thing. You always take what your monthly pay is, you divide by this 4, and this will give you your maximum pay that you should pay in rent. And you should never go above this. It's just, I know this is a fictitious number, right? Okay. So, we got 2583.33. We're going to divide by 4. So it says, like on this, according to the scale, when we divide by 4, you should be paying no more than $645.83 per month in rent. That should be your maximum budget for rent per month. Now that's not including, utilities and other things like gas and electric. The reason why they do that, why they're choosing 4. There's always 4 big things you have to think about. There's cost of like food and gas. There's your vehicle, and then there's usually your health. So those are like the 3 big ones. The 4th one should be rent. So food, transportation of some sort, and then your physical health. So like insurances and stuff. So it can be medical bills. So those are like the big things they always think you should be thinking about. Now that's not considering the actual internet. It's not considering, what you're going to have for heating and water and stuff. That's part of like the health aspect of the body. That's what they consider. Those are the 4 big things you should always split your money into. Your maximum pay should be $645. That's a lot. It's a lot of money per month, for however long you're going to stay there. To give you an idea, that type of $645, that's what we're going to kind of look at today. $645 is roughly around in like Garner area. That's about a $70,000 to $75,000 home. That's just a guesstimate from things I know from previous experiences with buying homes. That's about a $70,000 to $75,000 home you could have bought for that amount of money per month. You would own it. You wouldn't be renting it. That home might come with better features than what your rental apartment does. Now, there's always a benefit to renting. You don't have to repair anything. If something goes out that you didn't cause, that's not on you. That's on the person the landlord, that should be replacing it. Especially like an air conditioning unit, a heater, a water main goes out. You don't have to take care of that. But if you bought a home, you would. One of the first things that people always get really mad about is when they buy a home. Anytime there's any street repairs that are in your area, you're paying that. You pay that if it's in your area where you live. I know we talked about that in the first chapter. That's something that a lot of people just can't wrap their head around. Like, you're covering any of the street repairs, any of the things that happen in your general area. Flooding is a big one. This week last week I got a lot of rain. If you own the home, you have to cover the cost of any damages. But if you rent, you don't. In fact, you could even file insurance when you're renting, and if your stuff is damaged because it's not your place. So that's kind of nice. You can do that at home, but I'm just saying that affects your insurance rates. But if you're renting, that's different. Rental properties, you can get away with that. But yeah, $70,000 to $75,000 home. That in this Garner area, $75,000 home, that's like a 1,400 square foot home in this area. That's really big. That's like a 4-bedroom house. So you could be thinking about that. I could get a 4-bedroom house or a 1-bedroom apartment in Clear Lake for $645. $645, by the way, is probably low-end rent in Clear Lake right now. Like that's buying a very small apartment in Clear Lake, renting a small apartment. They don't really have a lot of like economical rentals in Clear Lake right now because everyone likes to live near the lake so they can jack up the prices. I think when I was looking, this was years ago when I was still renting, the average cost of like Clear Lake was like $800 to rent a place. That's a lot of money. I mean, if this magic number says you should be spending $645, you should go to like the neighboring towns, go to Ventura, go to Garner, go to Forest City, go to like any of the local areas, and maybe you can rent way cheaper because the lake drives up costs. So you got to be thinking about the area you live in. But that's just a magic number. This is not joking. It's a fictitious number, right? It's just this thing that they're recommending you should go by. You know, you should go past 645 because you still have to worry about your other, 3 big things you have to pay for in your life. You know, your health, your car, and food, and sustenance, basically. All right, questions at all about, that weird formula for rent? I know it is a weird formula. It's literally just made up. They take whatever your monthly pay is, divide by 4, and that's what you should pay for rent. Okay, now, let's talk about the mortgage. I want to talk about a mortgage on a home. Let's talk about a $70,000 home. This is something we've never done in here before. So $70,000. Today, I want to talk about how they calculate, for the first time, buying a home, and what the mortgage is and what the bank is going to talk you through. And what these numbers that they're going to throw at you, and certain terminologies they're going to throw at you. Okay? Because we're going to go into more of this, and I'm going to try to bring in a banker if I can to talk you through it. But the idea behind it, what a mortgage is, it's taking out a loan that's bigger than just a small loan. There's 2 types of loans. There's a mortgage, right? There's a mortgage loan, which is a loan for a home. It's a home loan. So if you're going to buy a house, or you're going to make like an addition to a house, or repair to a house, it's a mortgage. These are called compound interest loans. I'll explain that here in a second. Interest, there we go, spell it right. That's a compound interest loan. It's a large amount of money, and they have this formula that they use that will stretch your payments over a long period of time. It's very different than what they call a simple interest loan. A simple interest loan is usually called a small loan. Small object loan. It's usually what some banks call it. They call it just a small, simple interest loan. But a simple interest loan is when you're going to borrow a very, very, very small amount of money for an object or something that you need to purchase. So it's usually for household product. What I mean by a household product, I'm talking like you're going to buy an appliance, like a refrigerator, a stove. You're going to buy maybe a washer dryer. You can get a small loan for that. You can. I mean, you might need it now, and you don't have the cash. You can't wait, the 8 months for you to save up and buy, or more, maybe than 8 months. But you can go get a loan now. You can go buy that product from whatever store you want, and you have it in your house today. Sometimes you need that. Like, I need to do the laundry. I need a washer dryer. I know you can go to like a laundromat, don't get me wrong. That's always a smart decision sometimes, and save your money, but maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe there isn't a local laundromat area, or maybe they just charge too much money. They do. I mean, the laundromats are expensive sometimes. So household products. You could get a small loan for a car, a vehicle, a truck, a toy. So what I mean by toy is like a motorcycle, a jet ski, a boat, snowmobile, scooter, some type of vehicle, and or they can do loans on such things as technology like computers, most banks try to steer clear of this. They try to stay away from technology loans. The reason why, if you take a loan out to buy a computer and you need it for college, you take out a loan. What happens after a 2-3 year process with a computer? It's way out of date, right? It's either broken, it's way out of date, you want the new one. They don't like to give you a loan for that because it goes so far out of date that you're still paying it. You're still paying it until that loan's expired, when you paid it all off. Well, by the end of 2 years, that thing might be been broken for a long time, you haven't been using it, but you still are required to pay the loan for it until it's paid off. That can be painful. That's why a lot of banks try to avoid computers and technology. They try to avoid, like, you're gonna be in like photography, they can understand they can buy you a camera, they can get a loan for a camera. But they usually try to stay away from that because that type of technology gets so outdated so quickly because new ones are always coming out every single year. So they try to stay away from it. But yeah, it could be anything. It could be a car loan. We're gonna talk about that in this chapter. We'll talk about, you bought your house, now you're going after your first car, maybe going after a car now. What that looks like, what the formulas are, how do they calculate stuff. All right, let me stop the camera here and we'll get going on this mortgage here. Okay, so let's talk about the mortgage, the $70,000 loan. This is a tough thing to look at. I don't expect everyone to be an expert when you first see this formula. It's very tough. It's a big formula because taking a mortgage is a serious loan in your life. Like, it's something that isn't short term. Like small interest loans, a simple interest loan, like a small loan for a household product or a car, they maximum go out to 6 years, maximum loan. So you can stretch all your payments over 6 years, really small payments, right? But you gotta be thinking about, is it gonna be worth that in 6 years? So, especially cars. Cars depreciate really badly in a short amount of time. You saw it. You guys, like, we picked out cars in the last chapter. You could see the depreciation. A 2018 car, they might be charging $32,000 for it, MSRP. That's manufacturer resale price. But the next year, 2017, was almost half of that. Depreciated half in 1 year. So sometimes don't buy new, buy the next year down. You've already lost all that money, and you're saving a ton on the brand new vehicle anyway. But that's a 6 year loan maximum usually. A mortgage, like for a loan, for like if you're gonna do repairs on a house, you're gonna buy a home for the first time, they can go up to 30 years. I've heard of a loan for a really big loan going up to 50. But you better be very wealthy to get that type of loan. I've never seen anyone in this area that can probably get it, except for people that maybe live on the lake. But it's taking a big chunk of money. Like, no one's gonna go out and buy a $70,000 car, in theory, unless you have that type of money. Cool for you. But on a mortgage, like, I can't pay that back in 6 years. In fact, can somebody just take $70,000 divided by 6 years? So we're gonna take that divided by 6. And then that's per year, and then divided by 12. That's how many months are in that year. 70,000 divided by 6 divided by 12. What number do we get?
972.
Say it again.
972.
22. Okay. A $70,000 car for 12 months for 6 years is $900 a month. And that's not putting the interest. That's you just, if you had cash that somebody was letting you borrow just from them personally, I would never do that for them. But if you're borrowing cash from somebody and you're gonna pay it back over 6 years, it's gonna cost you about $1,000 a month for 6 years every month. Okay? That's with no interest on it. Because what interest is the bank charges you a little fee, just a tiny amount, it's usually like 3%, 2%, sometimes 4%, to take out a loan. Okay, and because that fee pays the employees, pays for the people that they borrowed the money from. Because believe it or not, when you borrow money from a bank, they're pulling that money from a lot of different bank accounts that are through that bank. People that leave money in savings accounts, they borrow their money, and that's what they loan to you. So when you start paying it back, they're putting that money back in that person's account they borrowed it from, and a little bit extra. That's why when you have a savings account, they pay you a little bit per year. It's like pennies on the dollar. They'll pay you like, hey, you stored money in our bank for this past year, here's some extra money because we borrowed it for a while, sorry. That was the scary thing during the Depression. Banks were doing that, right? They're taking out money from bank accounts to loan it out to people that needed loans. And then when the stock market crashed in like what, the 20s, the late 20s and the 30s, the depression hit basically really hard, where all the people's money that the banks borrowed money from never got their money back. It was just gone. So now everyone's poor. Because the money they loaned it to, that person lost their money. The person they borrowed the money from doesn't even have it anymore, it's not in the bank. And so everyone was just instantly poor overnight, right? It was over the time period, but it was pretty crazy. That's why banks now require, if you'll see the symbol on their doors and windows, FDIC insured, federal depository, it's insured basically currency, where they, every bank ensures that your money is good, will give you your money back guaranteed up to a certain price. I think FDI insured, I think for most like small banks around here is like $100,000. They'll never borrow more than that, and they will guarantee they'll pay that back. Because how they guarantee that is they have that money in a different account, they will give you your money back. They're just guaranteeing it. That's nice. But that's a lot of money to borrow, right? Now, this is different. When you borrow money from a bank, they charge you that little extra fee. It's a lot sometimes, depending on how many years you go out. Every year you go out on that loan is extra fees, because that's extra money they had to borrow. It's over a long period. They want to get it paid as quickly as possible. So they offer you better deals the smaller the loan you take and the quicker you want to pay it off. But let's say we take out a mortgage. Here's the formula I'd like you to write down for your mortgage. Your mortgage is equal to P1 plus R over N to the NT. This is the craziest formula I've ever seen in your life. This formula is based on student loans. It's based on, or what uses this formula is mortgages, student loans, credit cards. All those major things in your life use this formula to charge you a fee. Okay, and that's what you have to pay back. Like when I took a student loan out when I went to Iowa State, this is the magic formula that's behind the scenes calculating how much I owe, how much I should be paying, everything. Everything's based on this. It's insane when you see it. Because it's not just taking out a $70,000 loan, paying it over a certain time period, and that's all you owe. You're paying extra money back to the bank, and you're going to be paying them a lot of money back to the bank. Okay, so let's talk about what this formula is. Let's talk about the variables that are involved here, the letters that are involved. Okay, the letter M is the mortgage. So we're gonna call that's what we're gonna borrow from the bank. This is your total mortgage that you're gonna borrow. That's what this is gonna give you. It's gonna give you how much you're gonna pay to the bank back in the very, very end. Okay, think about that. In theory, unless they have a different interest rate. This is the principal amount that you're borrowing. This is the principal amount of money that you're borrowing. Okay, it's the initial amount, the starting amount you want to borrow. So in our case, it's the $70,000. We need $70,000 today to buy this house. That's the amount I want to borrow. Banks normally won't do that. You have to at least put some money down and good standard. It's called a deposits, right? Or a down payment. The 1 is a 1, plus sign's a plus. The R is the interest rate. This is the extra fee the bank is going to charge you to take out a loan. That interest rate is based on your credit score for a bank. Okay, credit score is a made-up number the banks have. There's this stupid thing, I don't even know the formula, no one really does. They just have it in a calculator and it spits out a random number at you. And a credit score is a number that the bank has placed on you personally. It's on your social security number that identifies you as being a responsible adult or not, basically. And it will decide whether you can take out a loan or not for that type of money. So what credit scores are based on your previous history with the bank, how long have you been with the bank, how many different things have you done with the bank. It looks at how many times you've committed, where you've actually went bankrupt, if you had to file bankruptcy, Chapter 11. It looks at the types of loans you've taken out in the past, how long have you paid them back, were you late on payments? It has this crazy formula that calculates and it spits out a number. The interest is based on that. So if you have a really good credit score, what a good credit score is somewhere near 850 is a perfect credit score. No one really has an 850. And that's a perfect credit score. Your lowest credit score you can have, I think, is down to, I think it's like 400. I think that's the lowest. I'll have to look. I think it's 400 is the lowest that I knew of. That's when you're basically like, you're homeless. I hate to say it that way, but you have nothing. In fact, you probably filed bankruptcy so many times that banks won't even allow you to make an account there anymore. So I don't know a lot of people that have 400s. I know some people that can get really low on their credit scores because they don't pay their medical bills or they don't pay their cell phone bill, and that affects your credit score. So somewhere in this range, when you're just starting as like a young adult like you guys are, I think they put you kind of in the middle. I think you're right at 600, like even keel. You're not bad, you're not good. You're just in the middle because they don't know anything about you yet. Now, with a 600, you may not be able to get a loan for 70 grand. You might have to start smaller because they don't have any history on you. They don't know if you're even capable of paying that back. So it kind of depends. I think 70 grand, I think they'd probably do it for you, but it wouldn't be a good interest rate. We'll talk about that here in a minute. To give you a real idea, this is a real story, no joke, I'm not making it up. I had a friend that I graduated high school with, extremely wealthy, like stupidly wealthy. They run a business that is a multi-million-dollar company. Okay, they're stupidly wealthy. They've never taken out a loan in their life. They pay everything in cash. They don't have credit cards, they have nothing. Everything they just buy is cash. They buy a car, they pay in cash. They bought a house, they paid cash. That's just what they do. They have a lot of cash. Okay? They went to go get a boat. I know this is stupid. They went to buy a boat from Clear Lake Boats in Clear Lake, and they couldn't take out a loan to buy the boat from the bank. This is a person that's multi-millionaire. No joke, multi-millionaire. Couldn't take out a loan because their credit score didn't give them enough, because they've never taken out a loan before, so they didn't have any history with the bank. They just have cash. So their credit score was 600. They couldn't buy a $100,000 boat that they wanted to buy. So they had to take out a small interest loan. They took out a loan to buy, I think, a washer dryer. It was like $1,400 loan. But they just took out the loan. They waited a week and they came in and they just paid for it with cash. The next day they just walked in the bank and said, hey, I'm paying off my loan. And then that sent their credit score up instantly. Because now they have history with the bank. They paid off a loan. They've shown good favor with the bank. And the bank's like, all right, now your score is 730 because you paid off a loan in time, like really quickly. You're good. You're a good standing up citizen. And then now they can buy their boat. That's stupid. I know it's like crazy. But you have to build a favor with the bank to give them to trust you. Okay? I know when I was in high school, my parents made me buy my first car. They didn't buy the first car for me. They made me go buy it. So I had to go do research. My dad went with me to go look at what I was going to buy. Bought a truck. Bought a small little S10 pickup. It was awesome. But they made me take out a loan for it so that I could build up favor with the bank, and I paid it off through my whole high school. I got it my freshman year and I paid it off throughout high school, so that when I graduated high school, I had a good credit score, so now I could get loans for student loans, because my parents weren't going to pay my student loans. They said right off the bat, they said, we're not paying your student loans. If you're going to college, you're paying it yourself. So just get that right in mind. I asked them how I'm going to do that, because I don't have any money, right? They said you have to build up credit, so they told me what I needed to do, and I went and did my loans. Well, I did 2 loans. I did my car, and I did a computer. Stupid investment, don't do that for a computer, but I did because I like technology. So, but I paid off my loans. I had really good credit. So then when I went to Iowa State, I instantly got accepted for student loans, like the amount that I needed to pay off my student. So, but that brought my credit score up. And then every year since then, I buy multiple cars. And so my credit score, I think the last time I checked was like an 820. It's good, like it's really good. Like it's about as high as you can probably get with my type of pay. Okay, I'm not gonna shoot for 850, it's not gonna happen. But why that's important, why I keep bringing this up, this credit score. The better your credit score, and this is the most backward system ever in the world, the better your credit score, the lower your interest rate is. So what that means is if you have really good credit with the bank really trusts you, they have a really good score next to your name in the books, you get a better interest rate. So that means they're gonna charge you less money to take out the loan. Okay, so they're gonna charge you less money. So a good interest loan is something like 2% to like 4%. That's a good interest loan. That's really low. 4%. I would like you to do this. Take 0.04. 0.04 and multiply it on $70,000. 0.04, because that's 4%, times 70 grand. What is it? 2,800? 2,800? That's the extra fee the bank is charging me to take out this loan. It's an extra fee. It's on top of the 70 grand. So now I got to pay them back $72,800 back, right? Because I have good credit, so they only charge me 4%. Somebody that has bad credit, now this is the backwards part I was talking about. They have really bad credit because they're really struggling. They have a lot of medical bills. They can't get ahead. Their job is really not the greatest. They're going to have really bad interest rates because their credit score is bad because the bank doesn't trust them. So their interest rates are 9 to 12%. Take 12%, 0.12 times 70 grand. Same car, same house, but you just had bad credit. You had bad luck in your life. The bank just charged you $8,000, $8,400, because you had bad credit score. The bank doesn't trust you, so they charge you extra money to guarantee they're going to get paid back in the long run. It's a totally backward system to me. Somebody that's down on their luck is being charged extra because the bank doesn't trust them. I understand where they're coming from though. They need to get paid back. That's money they're giving to you to pay them back in good faith. But I don't agree with this. This system's broken to me. Somebody that doesn't have money, why are you charging them more? That doesn't make sense to me. But that's just me. Okay? So the better the credit score, the better the interest rates. You want to shoot down. My first car I bought out of college, I have bought multiple cars since then, but in college, the first major car I ever bought was a BMW. Right out of college. I graduated Iowa State in 2006. Boom, I bought a twin turbo BMW. Stupid. So now, my interest was awesome, because at the time my credit score was like 820, because I was out of high school, I was out of college, and I was like, my credit score was probably the best it was ever at that time. It's good now, but it was like the best ever. My interest rate was 1.9% on like a $40,000 car. It was 1% interest, right? That's unheard of. You can't even buy cars like that. Okay? Nowadays, to buy a car, like I went to Pritchard's the other day, my credit score was still good. It's like 820 something, right? To buy a car through Pritchard's, not that car now, my interest was going to be like 6%. 6%? That's a lot of money. You guys did 12. That was like 8 grand. I'm not going to pay 4 grand for a truck that I want. No, I'm going to wait. Because it depends on the year, the model you're buying, depends on the company you're buying it from, the interest changes. You buy foreign cars, they charge you less interest sometimes. Sometimes. Nowadays that price is going up because of Trump and all of his tariffs. But it happens. So like British cars and German cars are now going up in price, and like Italian cars and stuff. But American-made cars go down in price. So the interest can be kind of little. But what we're going to talk about is what this formula is probably on, Wednesday. We're going to finish this out. Okay? I know that's a lot, sorry. I talked your ear off for about 10 minutes, but hopefully it's something you're actually going to use in your life and you actually find it worthwhile.
So like you say that you
Just like this.
how would you know your credit?
You can check your credit for any bank. I would not do those online things. Yeah, I would never do those. That's the biggest scam in the world. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But I would go to the bank and say, hey, I want to check my credit score in case I ever want to take a loan. They'll check the credit score. So, never do one of those online things.